Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Coffee Break, and welcome back to the CoffeeCast Procast Edition. And this is game number 2, spawning on the top right-hand side on Entombed Valley. He is our green Protoss player, the winner of game number 1. It is going to be Grubby. And spawning on the lower left-hand side, he lost game number 1, going for a bio push and got a little bit metagamed. It is going to be our blue Terran player, Lucifron. Lucifron, once again, if you guys are just coming straight off of game number 1, I talked a little bit about it at the end. If not, then just a quick follow-up to that first game. Grubby went for this awesome, beautiful opening. I believe, if I recall rightly, I believe it was a 3-gate robo expansion sort of build. I mean, it was like a 1-gate expansion and 3-gate robo, you know, whatever. And what he ended up doing was he got 2 Colossus out, and the first Colossus spawned at about the 11-minute point when that standard, you know, 10:30 to 11:30 Terran bio push would be barreling down his front door. So he got that Colossus out at a perfect timing, and then as Lucifron did push, he was able to push that back super easily and transitioned over into a Zealot Archon, or pardon me, a Zealot High Templar Archon, getting some Storm out, and Lucifron had a bunch of Vikings made, but didn't have the Ghost on the field to immediately counter the Storms, and by the time the Ghost got on the field with that Mobus reactor, and were able to start laying down EMP, half of Lucifron's army had mysteriously gone missing in, oh gosh, what's that one, the Bermuda Triangle. It's kind of like, you know, the Bermuda Triangle. You get caught under one of those little psionic storms, and then you just disappear. Never to be heard of again. It'll be interesting to see what these players go for on this map. It is a much bigger map than what were we on? Cloud Kingdom. I guess it's not a super bigger map, but it is definitely bigger, especially with these cross spawns, which I believe are forced in IEM. I'm not completely certain about that. I don't know. All I know is that they are cross spawned here, and that's all that really matters. So the rush distance is so long. I mean, just look at this. So this is one mouse scroll. And I'm trying to get there. I'm still trying to get there. My mouse is about off the table. So it took me, my mouse was almost off the table by the time I finally got to the other side of the map. So it's a much longer rush distance. Controlling this watchtower can be pretty nice because it forces your opponent to take a slightly longer route, going kind of behind these little, I don't know, awkward island expansions that you don't see players take all that often. SCV going to be running up into the main base. He's going to have seen this Nexus, this fast Nexus, the 1-gate Nexus, which on bigger maps like this is pretty much simple to pull off, and I would be surprised not to have seen it. But I like Lucifron's build order right now, going for a total of 5 Raxes, and the command center probably going to do a little bit of a bio push, but once again on a map this large, it's going to be hard to get anything super effective going out across the map with any sort of decent timing, even actually getting a little bit supply block there. There we go, now rectifying that. But doing a you know, a super big bio push a little bit harder on long maps like this. So I could see bio pressure with these 5 Raxes, but I think mainly it's going to be for defense because the longer maps don't really affect Protoss players so much because you do have that warp gate technology. So you can just lay down a pylon or something in, you know, right here, maybe over at the 4th base, and just kind of warp in an army there on top of your opponent. So I think those 5 Raxes are a little bit more for defense, can be used to do a little bit of pressure, but in the end, I wouldn't expect anything, you know, crazy aggressive coming out of either player on a map like this. Oh, looks like Zealot was trying to do a little bit of scouting there. Lucifron on top of that, going to be able to pick that up with pretty much ease. And I just realized a crucial mistake before starting this cast, and the fact that I did not refill my water bottle. That's all I have left. I hear a little bit of action going on. Oop, that's the wrong overlay. I hear a little action going on, and it is a stalker trying to poke up and do a little bit of damage. Did manage to pick off 1 Marine before finally having to retreat. A few Marines down in the yellow health. That's not all that big of a deal. Lucifron is going to be moving out across the map with a nice little contingency of Marines. 16 Marines on the field. Only a sentry and the stalker forced out of position, left it to defend, and actually it looks like Grubby is going to be going for a counterattack-esque sort of build here rather than going home to defend. Going to be able to pick off some reinforcements and might be just kind of desperately hoping that he can have enough forces, or pardon me, rally enough forces back home to be able to hold off against this many Marines. Marines are going to be coming up into the natural expansion. Probes already being pulled off the mineral line. Stalker's trying to push and prod a little bit at the natural of Lucifron. Not going to get all that far. Guardian Shield is popped, which is going to make these Stalkers very, very resilient with 3 armor versus these Marines, but that is going to eventually go down. I think Grubby's going to be just fine, though. Did lose quite a few probes, but he did also have an earlier expansion. We look over that that unit step that I have up right now. 5 Stalkers to just the, well, over here remaining 4 Marines. 24 to 22 Harvesters. So that was just kind of an equalizer there, more so than any sort of real damage being done by Lucifron. It was kind of I wouldn't even say it was damage Lucifron needed to do, but it's damage that, since Lucifron did, he will be in a very, very stable position going into the mid game. I guess, because he would have been just ever so slightly behind Grubby going into the mid game, but I don't think it would have been, you know, the biggest game changer in the world or anything. Grubby actually looking to be a little bit aggressive here, going to be pushing up with these Stalkers. Needs to make sure to micro those back. This one's actually very low on health, might not want that directly in the front there, but with these 3 SCVs protecting the bunker, that is not going to go down very easily at all. The forward pylon, we have to remember though, is still down, so Grubby can continue to reinforce this, probably with a couple of Zealots if he really wants to try doing anything. I mean, there's not all that much Grubby can do against this many Marines, and with only a single sentry, there's just not going to be, really not going to be enough firepower to be able to take down this much stuff. He'd really need I don't know, 6 gateways, probably 6 warp gates, and he'd need a couple more sentries and a couple more Zealots. Sentries to force field around the bunker, Zealots get up, tank the damage, while the Stalkers do all the real damage. Going to be laying down gases number 3 and 4 over Grubby's base, so the tech play going to be starting to come up fairly shortly here. Robotics not quite halfway done, so probably going to be going into Colossus once again. Grubby not so worried about that big bio push this game. Pardon me, that medevac, that double medevac push this game, as he's already kind of seen that Lucifron has invested a lot into these early Marines. There just would not be the resources needed to be able to get that out at the standard time. Going to be getting a couple Colossus out, I'm sure, though. And the last game we actually saw him experiment, or at least get ready to experiment with some Warp Prism play. We did have the Warp Prism come onto the field. So I would be interested to see if he does try to do something akin to that once again, or if that was just going to be more for a harassment thing, not so much as a build, as much as I saw you do X, so I'm going to respond with Y kind of thing. Chrono Boosted Observer out on the field, so pretty soon Grubby will know everything that's going on, which is dun-dun-dun-dun! Bio play. Whoop-de-doo. It's going to be the same old out of Lucifron. It's going to be the same thing. And actually, you know, while we're kind of sitting around in the going into the mid game here, Heart of Swarm, actually, Blizzard recently released an update, not a patch, but just an update of what they're looking to do with Heart of Swarm. And they're looking actually to buff bio in the late game, as well as buff mech overall. It's kind of a general buff for mech. So it should be interesting to see how exactly they decide to do that. One thing they were talking about was increasing medevac movement speed, just to make those medevacs a little bit easier to keep alive, as they were getting sniped off pretty easily. Drops, apparently they don't think drops are effective enough. I'm not going to make any real commentary on that, but I don't know how exactly I feel about their thought process on a lot of that. So we'll just kind of have to see how things do end up turning out. Neither player has actually taken a third base quite yet. We do have the third base just about ready for Lucifron. He's just going to be morphing that into an orbital command now. So that'll be ready to go in about a minute here. That'll be landing off. And Grubby is going to need to start thinking about taking a third base. Otherwise, he's going to start falling behind very, very quickly, because Lucifron's economy is just going to kick up very, very powerfully, I should say, in just a couple of moments, with 3 Muling command centers and 3 command centers producing SCVs to just the 2, you know, the double probe production of Grubby. Over on the income tab, by the way, 56 to 52 harvesters. Spending tab, this is something I've once again been experimenting a little bit with on Amateur Attack. I don't really care about where each number lies so much as how much total. Which, I mean, as we can see right now, both players are fairly even on that tab. But say there's, you know, a big drop out of Lucifron, and Grubby has to pull all of his probes, and they're just kind of sitting here for a while. That's when I kind of like starting to look at the spending tab, because you can say, you know, okay, well, Lucifron has now had an additional 2,000 resources spent on, you know, on making stuff in general. Once again, I don't really give a crap if, you know, there's an extra 2,000 in army or an extra 2,000 in economy. You know, whoop-de-free can do. But just kind of seeing in general that, you know, there's an extra 2,000 spent, I think is kind of a cool little thing. That's something, you know, I'm just looking through all the little tabs here, For those of you who don't really go into replays all that often, you have your APMs, your name panel, of course. I don't know if there's really anything else that's all that interesting. I guess there's a units lost tab that I do bring up occasionally. I bring it up occasionally, but the units lost tab is actually most useful kind of in the early game. If somebody does a big timing attack and, you know, it's like 900 to 400, that's really big in the early game. And it's also kind of interesting once you're transitioning into the late game. You can say, well, you know, Grubby has been trading inefficiently. He's down 2,000 in these engagements, and, you know, I don't know. It's just, you know, little different ways to look at the game. But, you know, you can look at that and say, you know, well, Grubby's trading inefficiently, but he has, you know, 75 harvesters to just the 40 of his opponents. So, you know, it kind of evens out. I don't know. It's just little things like that I like to look at every so often, just kind of kill a little bit of dead time. Kind of like I'm killing dead time now, just randomly talking about the different tabs that I can pull up. Yes, stalling. We are going to be transitioning over into High Templar on Grubby's side of things right as Lucifron does a massive push out. Lots of bile, lots of marines, lots of marauders, a few Vikings up in the air. Is Mobius Reactor on the field? I don't even think Ghosts are ready to come on the field. I think I saw Ghost Academy finish up, but there we go. Mobius Reactor just now starting. So Lucifron going to poke up a little bit. This time going to see that there really aren't that many High Templar on the field. In fact, Storm not even ready yet. This is going to be another instance where Grubby is going to kind of just need to stall. Oh, this Nexus might have to be canceled, and it is canceled as it was finishing up. So that's a great victory for Lucifron. Grubby's third base is going to be massively delayed from that unless he just decides to throw down a ninja third base. I actually love this decision out of Grubby. Lucifron, actually knowing that he's already done quite a bit of damage, just forcing the cancel on the base, goes, all right, I canceled your third base as it was finishing up. That means that I have a massive economy lead right now. I'm just going to fall back home and make sure I have everything I want going into the late game. So he's going to fall back home, make sure he has the Viking count that he wants, which he's producing 4 at a time right now. Going to be getting 3 or 4 ghosts on the field. Ghosts. He's going to be getting ghosts on the field. I don't know where that came from. Going to be getting a few ghosts on the field. And with that EMP capability, so that when the final big engagement does go up, he can hopefully land off the EMPs on the High Templar and on the Archons and the Zealots before Grubby can get up and kill half his army again this time. So, Lucifron transitioning beautifully into the late game, finally getting that +1 Terran ship weapons. Something I wanted to talk about a little bit last game, but didn't get a chance to. I've been having fun doing having quote-unquote fun, meaning I'm sitting around in calculus, and instead of doing calculus, I'm doing StarCraft math. Much more interesting. I've been experimenting a little bit and just kind of seeing how exactly upgrades do affect specific engagements, like Vikings versus Colossus. How much having armor upgrades and ground weapons upgrades affects the Zealot Archon versus Zealot Archon type of battles, and that +1 upgrade for the air weapons. If there are no armor upgrades on the Colossus, a very big deal. And if if the Colossus are about to go up onto 3-3, which they are, you actually really should be having either a crap load of Vikings, which we do have here, or you can be a little bit more efficient, have a few less Vikings, free up some other army supply, and just make sure that you have your +3 weapons upgrade, and it kind of actually ends up evening out in the end. Looks like Lucifron might have caught wind about this base up here, and yes, oh, he has scouted that now. He knows where it is. He's going into position to be able to attack that. Grubby is kind of in position to defend against it. He's going to be splitting up his army a little bit here. This is actually a rather interesting split. In fact, I don't know what exactly Grubby is thinking here. He has a lot of his important army units just kind of sitting all the way in the back. I guess he's waiting for Lucifron to really push up. Does not want those Colossus anywhere near these Vikings until the moment is upon him, and will not want these High Templar anywhere near the Ghosts until the moment is upon him. Looks like Lucifron, he's decided the moment might be now going to be stimming up, running up that ramp, and Grubby, beautiful decision making. They're going to have just enough units there to be able to defend against that, dropping a storm on 3 Marauders, or 2 Marauders and a Marine. That's going to be cleaned up fairly easily there. Grubby going to be forced to warp in a few additional units on the higher ground. 1 storm going down on top of those Marines, and just continuing to hold this engagement back just a little bit longer, until finally he is ready to go. A beautiful EMP goes off in the middle of that army. About 3/4 of the Zealots have no shields now. Lucifron just sending small attack waves of units up into the third base of Grubby. They're going to, I would actually recommend him pick off these rocks as well while he's at it, just to get another engagement angle. and just kind of waiting for the perfect moment to send a few extra units up there to really engage that. Grubby going to be warping in a lot of zealots on the high ground. And Lucifron actually going to be pulling back here. I think that's kind of an interesting decision on his part. I think that if he just kept on sending small contingencies of units up into this third base, Grubby would have just had to keep his army back, because there really was not going to be any sort of angle that Grubby could reasonably engage that with the Ghosts and with the Vikings in that army. That was going to be an extremely difficult situation for Grubby. But I guess Lucifron feeling a little bit uncomfortable going into that. And I guess in the end, I can see why another player would really want to engage that. But I think Lucifron might have had a small advantage in that. If we look over at the units lost tab, we see fairly even at this point. I mean, it's only a 900 spread going into the late game. That's actually not too bad. In fact, just a lot of small skirmishes so far in this game. I would love to see a warp prism on the field for Grubby, so as his army died, he could start warping in a counterattack somewhere. Not going to be the case for the moment, though. He is just about maxed out. In fact, both players just about maxed out. 3-3 on the field. Well, almost on the field for both players. Lucifron just about to finish up his 3-3. You know you're going into the late game when the Protoss is beginning to upgrade his shields, just because at that point, why not? You can. Going to be getting +2 ship weapons as well. A couple more Ghost Academies. Oh, that means that we have nukes coming onto the field, folks. Unless Lucifron is just making a lot of extra infrastructure for some reason. This army, for some reason, doesn't look that big to me. I guess it's just the same in the army supply. I don't know what's up with that, but big engagement coming up here. Grubby began moving over into this army, but kind of decided, oh, Ghost getting sniped after laying down just one feedback. Another feedback going down on top of those Ghosts. That High Templar did get feedback to there, or pardon me, EMP'd. There's just such a kind of an intense micro over here. It's just Ghost trying to, oh, whoa, what happened there? I really don't know. I really don't know what happened there. Looks like actually Lucifron's almost sacking some of his basic bio units. Oh, nothing actually right now on the ground to really defend against these Vikings, and a lot of Colossus going to be going down. There we go. Archon's finally beginning to lead the charge there, but Lucifron getting a beautiful position there, noticing the small numbers of stalkers in that army, and noticing that he could put his Vikings in the front to start getting a couple free volleys off on these Colossi, which are now extremely low on health. 3 nukes just finishing up. That is going to put Grubby in an interesting position to defend against those. I don't know how exactly those are going to be used, whether they're, I mean, you can use nukes actually in a surprising number of ways. You can use them to position your opponent's forces a little bit into a more favorable engagement. You can use them to kind of hold your opponent's forces back while you take out a base. So for instance, if Lucifron ran up in here and then dropped a couple of nukes on the ramp, Grubby just, I mean, there would be no feasible way for him to run up there to defend against that. It looks like we are getting a Gravitic booster set. Oh, we have a nuke. Where's the nuke? Where's the nuke? Oh gosh, I'm so bad at finding these. Oh, where is it? There it is. Oh no, it's over at the third base. There's actually quite a bit of important mining going on here, namely that gas mining, and apparently I can't pull that away. Oh, Grubby noticing at the last moment does lose a few probes there. In the meantime, we do have, well, an observer being taken out there, I suppose. Another nuke going down in this base. That one's an interesting decision. I don't know exactly why he's using another nuke at this spot. That's going to go down and pretty much kill nothing. It might take out this cannon. Yeah, I guess it took out a couple of cannons. And that probe spawning at, like, right after that nuke went off. That is the luckiest probe in the world. Gravitic drive, Gravitic boosters. I think that one's the observer speed. I think it is. I don't know. It looks like everything is upgraded at this point, though. Warp Prism finally coming on the field. I kind of wish that had been out a little bit earlier, as I think the harassment potential of that is quite powerful. Finally, Grubby getting a couple of High Templar over here, getting an Observer over here, going to be able to feed back this Ghost, or storm it, I suppose. Okay, or a little bit of each, just because he can. And that nuke finally going to be thwarted. But guess what? Lucifron now pushing with a massive, once again, a massive bio army. Quite a few Vikings left in here. A lot of zealots just kind of dying there, but it's not like these players don't have enough to remacro little bits and pieces of their army. It's just going to come down to the big engagement, how these armies are split. I think, oh, nuke going down in the middle here, right on top of this army, going to force Grubby back unless he can find the one specific Ghost. It is cloaked, sitting right there in the middle. Oh, Grubby, you're cutting it a little bit close, going to instead decide to finally fall back. That's going to give Lucifron a little bit of an opening up into that third base. I guess I should be calling this kind of the fifth now. It only makes sense. I don't want any of you guys getting confused. They're going to be sending a small unit up, a small contingency of units up into that fifth base there. but Zealot's going to be warped in there. Nuke going down on top of the army once again. Grubby deciding he has had enough, going to try to engage this, but in the end just has to fall back. Does not feel comfortable with that nuke literally looming right over the top of his head. Gets out in time. That observer is picked off. No real damage done there. Trying to slowly push into this nexus. Now going to finally be able to take a chance and move up into that 4th base, dropping a nuke down in the middle there. Grubby's army going to be completely separated. This base almost certainly going to be going down. Did get one nice storm off. That nuke falling down now. Now Grubby going to be moving in, trying to engage this. I don't see the Warp Prism anywhere interesting on the map right now. That's one counterattack capability not really being used. Zealot's get a great surround on that army. A couple of good storms go off. The Vikings are all down. One Colossus does remain on the map here, and that's a 3-3 Colossus, by the way. And it looks like Grubby actually getting a great positioning, catching Lucifron's forces completely separated from one another, and is able to pick them off in small contingencies. Lucifron actually getting annihilated there, not taking advantage of his tactical nukes there, was not able to run up and snipe the 5th base, was not able to do some sort of damage to the middle base, and that means the economy for Grubby is actually completely intact. I mean, it's not skyrocketing ahead, but Grubby should be way behind at this point, but just isn't. And so now this is going to open up an opportunity for Lucifron to move out across the map. There are so many ghosts left on the field, though. That's a lot of EMP capabilities. These Archons are going to be completely depleted on the shields. Zealot's going to have to be very careful. A lot of High Templar here as well. Needs to make sure not to get these all EMP. Night Storm goes off there. Grubby trying to push down the front door here, taking out a couple of the barracks here. One barracks is going to fall, needs to come around and probably assault these 2 Ghost Academies, though, if he really wants to stop any sort of aggression. Taking out this planetary fortress here as well would be a great victory for Grubby if he would be able to pull that off. Now transitioning into the end game, folks. No more Colossus for Grubby for the moment, at least. Transitioning pretty much over into Zealot Archon, which is a very, very easy force to re-macro. It looks like Grubby is going to be coming over here, targeting down these 2 Ghost Academies. No more nukes are going to be on the field for Lucifron, at least a very small number. All of these SVs actually getting caught as well. One Ghost Academy does go down. A lot of mass repair on this planetary fortress. Storm goes down on that. Nice pull on the SVs. Not going to allow that to do all that much damage. Warp Prism still not really being utilized. I do see something here that's just a pylon. Once again, a Warp Prism I just feel would really secure victory here for Grubby, but it looks like this base over on the 5th base over on the right hand side probably going to be going down for Lucifron. That was a good chunk with mining. Lucifron actually falling fairly low, and Harvesters now going to be trying to engage Grubby right here, right now. He has had enough. Grubby's forces are caught up in this area. This kind of awkward positioning for Grubby here. There's a lot of ghosts on the ground going to lose an Archon for free right there. Grubby, oh, how are you going to engage this? Going to pop the Guardian Shield and just kind of go for it, but these horses are pretty much forfeit for Grubby. That's going to put him quite a bit down in supply. Where are we going to go from here? 136 to 118 supply. Grubby quickly re-macroing his forces there. Over on the income tab, 68 to 41 Harvesters. Lucifron now playing a game of attrition here. He has less income than his opponent for a short time until this command center can land, but he did lose quite a few Harvesters in that previous engagement there, which it does kind of put him back onto a slightly more even footing, with Grubby Colossus going to be starting to get remade here. Even though there are quite a few Vikings on the field, there are more ghosts, so I mean, I guess you have to just kind of decide which one you really want to focus against, and at this point too, there are quite a few High Templar on the field. Doesn't really need any more than that. I almost wonder at this point in time if a mothership might be an interesting option to an interesting route to pursue. If you could get a vortex down on an army and throw a couple of Archons in there, could potentially be very devastating, especially if you manage to catch the Vikings, and so the Vikings wouldn't be able to shoot down the Colossus. But that tech just not in place at this moment. I mean, not even a Stargate on the field because, well, let's be honest, it's PvT. Who the hell gets a Stargate in PvT? I mean, it's just bad. It really is. Both players fairly even at this point in time. Oh man, I am really regretting not having more water. I don't want this game to end, but at the same time I need it to end soon, because I don't know how much longer I can last without getting a drink. My throat is about as parched as it does right now. A beautiful army split here by Grubby. His forces are a little bit separated. Doesn't really have all that many zealots on the field, which is kind of what he needs right now. Nuke is going down somewhere. Where is that nuke going to be going down? Oh, one feedback going down. Charge Lot coming up. Going to be trying to take out this ghost, and he does get it. That nuke is canceled. But another nuke going down right outside at this middle base here. That's going to be killed off as well. Lucifron using the last 2 2 of his nukes. Now only going to be able to remake 1 for the moment here. Very low on minerals, but I mean, he has little else suspended on. Going to be making, well, ghost, and a couple of marines, and that's about it. The income tab showing both players fairly even at this point in time. Once again, Grubby has a more solid lead, considering he has more harvester, but that means that these supplies a little bit deceptive, meaning Lucifron has a slightly larger army supply because Grubby does have the worker supply advantage. At this point, I almost wonder if Grubby should maybe sack a few of his probes, maybe just like 10 or 15. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a few extra Colossus on the field. That's some extra Zealots trying to wrap around the army. You never know how much that could help in the end. Warp Prism being remade, none on the field, so apparently that got sniped off at some point in time. Grubby reestablishing another base. Lucifron is going to drop a scan on top of that, so he's going to know it's there. Going to instead be moving more towards, I don't know, maybe just getting an army split. Going to be leaving quite a, there we go, now ghosts are being rallied in. Going to be moving in towards the natural expansion. Oh, a little bit of a miss micro here by Grubby. Actually, no, beautiful positioning. Coming around in the flank, Lucifron is surrounded. A couple of storms going off. Now getting the EMP going down. Did he get all of the high doubler that he really needed to, though? Goes going to be picking off. Oh, beautiful storms! Annihilating the armies of Lucifron! Lucifron dropping below 100 supply. Oh, actually dropping into a 101. That troll remade units right after the end of the game just to spite me, I swear. What an amazing finish by Grubby. Getting the wraparound at first. I couldn't quite see the minimap because of the glare I mentioned last game. Haha, excuses. I couldn't quite see the minimap. Grubby actually had a beautiful flanking positioning coming around kind of this top islandy area, or top, I don't know, what do you want to, crevasse, a ravine, I don't know, coming around this top area, wrapping all the way down around and able to catch Lucifron's forces, pincered them right here, dropped some beautiful storms, and just annihilated that army beyond comprehension. Grubby playing an amazing game against one of our top Terran players in the EU right now, and actually probably one of the top Terran players outside of Korea, and I think that he's even made a decent run against Korean players as well. But then, that just shows the capability of Grubby's play. Beautiful execution. Loved the use of Storm. I wish that we could have just seen a little bit more Warp Prism play other than 0 Warp Prism play. But once again, great games played by both players. Lucifron just making that one little slip up in the end game, and that's all it takes in the end game is one small slip up. And I mean, once you lose your army like that, it's game over. If you have not already, like me on Facebook, please. You can find the information for that down in the description. Click to subscribe. Of course, I always appreciate getting the little email saying so-and-so has subscribed to you on YouTube. It makes me all happy and getting inside my 20,000 views. I'm about to get, well, I should say I'm about to hit 20,000 views here on YouTube. That is so exciting for me. I remember actually when I hit 100 views, and I was like, oh, cool, 100 people have looked at, I've seen my videos, and then I hit 1,000 views, and it was like, mind was blown. And to think that I've come this far, almost to be up at 20,000 views, is just mind-blowing. You guys are so awesome. Thank you for coming back and watching these videos. I will be doing a small little event probably for that. It's probably going to be a live stream event. Haven't completely decided on what that it's going to be, but it's probably going to be something like a 6-hour streamathon of Reddit casted or something. Just kind of do something for a lot of the users. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and log off. So thanks for joining me here on the Coffee Cast. This has been Grubby versus Lucifron. Grubby winning 2-0 in the IEM. And until next time, folks, this is Coffee Break, signing out.